Hey everyone, welcome to Talent Experience Live. It is Mental Health Awareness Month here in the United States, and surprisingly, this was news to me. This has been recognized and really brought into the forefront since 1949, which was pretty incredible. So this year's theme is back to basics, and I thought that was such a great theme, especially after the past couple of years. Really thinking about how do we get back to the basics. And one of my favorite recent books that I've read, I have it right here. It's called Breathe. It is the New Science of a Lost Art. It's by James Nestor. I love it. I have it earmarked, and it's one of those things that we forget to do, right? We forget to do. Our body does it automatically, but sometimes we really need to step back and do it in a mindful way, right? Really sit back and breathe, right? And bring some awareness to ourselves and our bodies and our place and time. And it's a challenging thing to do. I've been on Zoom pretty much since 8 a.m. this morning, right? And I think that's a reality of many of our days. I drive my kids to school at 7:25. We all woke up at 7:10 today, which is a rare occasion. So just giving you a glimpse into my reality, right? So I think it's important for all of us to really step back and think about our own realities and breathe. So one of the things we're going to do every TXL, we're going to open up with just a minute of mindfulness. And it might be a little uncomfortable if you've never done this before. So we're going to roll a quick 60-second clip. And during that 60-second clip, I really just want you to take a second, if you can, to maybe stop multitasking, stop scrolling through the feed, and really just get comfortable in your seat. Or if you are uncomfortable, just bathed in the discomfort, just for 60 seconds and just be aware of your breathing and yourself. And we'll be back and we'll have a fantastic show. Awesome. Hopefully that was just a good opportunity just to sit back and breathe, right? And really just bring some mindfulness to yourself. We're gonna have a really fantastic show today. We have multiple guests, right? We have 3 awesome guests who will be joining us today. And we're gonna tackle this topic that we all know we need to destigmatize and we need to bring to the forefront of our conversations. So without any further ado, now that we've brought the energy down to a calm state, I want to pump us up, right? So without further ado, let's get pumped up. It is Thursday. It is 12 p.m. Eastern. This is Talent Experience Live. Let's roll our typical intro.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go.
Talent Experience Live. We're covering everything that you need to know in talent experience.
People applying for new positions is like the cherry on top.
With the technology to attract talent.
Recruiters always know their best talent.
The AI just wants to use that information.
Inclusion efforts across the organization.
Tell me what it's like to work through associate story.
Interviews with leaders in the industry. Talk about what's new in HR tech. What are the hot topics? We're here every week, folks. Weekly look at the latest and greatest topics in HR. Welcome to Talent Experience Live. We're back. This is the greatest show on the internet. It's a bold statement. I like to make bold statements, but this is absolutely the place to be every week if you are a recruiter, a sourcer, a talent marketer, a talent manager, if you're in HR. We cover all different types of topics, and we cover the latest and greatest in HR tech. If you're just joining us, we go live every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern time here on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, be sure to like, subscribe, join us on the platform of your choice. We want to make sure that you're there with us. We would not be here every week if it weren't for you joining us, right? Our purpose here at Phenom is to help 1 billion people find the right job. And that's not a typo. I didn't misspeak. It's a true billion. We are well on our way, and we can't do it without our amazing community. And anybody who joins the chat and really participates in TXL, you're a part of that community. So I just want to thank you before we even get started. Thanks for being a part of our community, being a part of our purpose. We really appreciate it. We have a talent experience platform. It is built to help candidates find the right fit faster, to help employees evolve in their current role and beyond, to help recruiters achieve some of that next level productivity and efficiency, and to help managers build better teams with data, analytics, and automation. All of this is powered by super slick artificial intelligence and machine learning. Head on over to phenom.com if you want to learn more. We're always happy to have conversations with you to learn about your unique pain points and challenges. That's what it's all about. It's about forming the connection so we can understand you, your industry, your challenges, so that we can best serve you with technology. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Let me know who you are, where you're from. I always say I have the beauty of working for the internet, right? I get to engage with people all across the globe. It is my pleasure. So let me know who you are, where you're from. And connect and network with your peers. I see a lot of magic happen in the chat each week. People meeting people engaging, people learning who other people are and what they do and what their mission is and what their purpose is. It's really exciting. So one of our icebreaker questions, we like to open up with an icebreaker because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. We talk about self-care, right? And how important it is to practice self-care on a daily basis, right? And I'm curious, what is your kind of go-to technique or go-to thing that you do for yourself to either bring some joy to your day, some mindfulness to your day? If you don't mind sharing in the chat, let me know what it is. Every week, you'll catch some guitars in my background. That might give you the illusion that I'm a good guitar player. I'm really not. I'm not a good musician at all. But I do like to play, and 5-10 minutes a day really helps me kind of nurture some of that self-care. So music for me. We've got Devin from Philly in the chat. We've got Marcus with Inspire Brands. Welcome, Marcus. So excited to have you here. We have Laura. We have Patry. Definitely be active in the chat. This is an episode where we want lots of conversation, right? We want you to join in the conversation with us. So we have a lot of guests today, as I mentioned, so we're going to jump right into it. First, I want to announce a great giveaway that we're hosting throughout the month. So each episode, if you comment, like, or share the LinkedIn post. So this is only on LinkedIn. If you comment, like, or share the TXL LinkedIn post, you'll be entered to win an annual premium subscription of the Calm Meditation and Mindfulness app, right? So we want to equip you and really help you take action. And I know this is just a small step. This is just a small action, but we want to be a part of that. And we want to help that. And this just made sense. Really great idea. From Carrie, actually, on our team, came up with this awesome idea, and we ran with it. So each week, you'll have another opportunity to win. So this week, like, share, comment. All those who are commenting now, you're already eligible, and you'll be in the pool. And then next week, we'll announce the winner for this week's episode. So super excited about that. As I mentioned, we're tackling the topic of mental health awareness today. And here's how these things typically go, right? Each month, there's a declaration that it is this type of awareness month, right? And then as you're scrolling through your LinkedIn feed, you'll see a lot of very well-intentioned posts, right? From people, from companies. They'll share statistics, they'll share tiny anecdotes, they'll share feel-good posts, and these get a ton of engagement, right? You'll scroll through. And every month is certainly a different month, right? Every month is its own awareness month, and you'll see these posts. But here at TXL, we don't want to just rinse and repeat that, right? We don't want to set a table that's already been set, right? You don't need us to tell you that this is an issue and this is a challenge that many of us are grappled with. At TXL, we don't want to have a bias for validation. We don't want to have a bias for affirmation, right? We want to have a bias for action, right? We want to make sure that we have a bias for action. And without delay, I want to welcome two incredible leaders here at Phenom and friends of the show, Brad Goldoor, our Chief Employee Experience Officer, and Jess Elmquist, our CHRO. And we're going to talk through how you and your organization can take that action, right? And how critical it is today. So let's bring on our guest today. Brad and Jess, welcome to the show. How are you both?
Great. Thanks
Doing
for having
well.
us.
Hey,
Awesome.
Brad, how are you?
Good.
I love it. And again, friends of the show, Brad, you've been on before. So welcome back. Jess, you were in studio. We did a face-to-face episode, which is really exciting to get back into the office and get to meet you face-to-face. And again, in that episode, I had mentioned that my first interaction with you, Jess, was when you participated in IMHR, our virtual events. At the time, you were at Lifetime Fitness, and your session was all about mental health. So that was actually my first impression of you as a professional, a leader in HR who was deeply invested and deeply cared about mental health. So, Jess, excited to have you back talking about this topic. Brad, you've recently kind of upgraded your title from Chief People Officer to Chief Employee Experience Officer. And I'm kind of curious, to kick things off, what does that title upgrade mean to you? And I know, titles are titles and many of us could do without them, but it felt like a meaningful upgrade to me. So I wanted to get your take on it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. So I think we've realized in the pandemic how important employee experience, I think it's changed its meaning, and, the great resignation, whatever you want to call it, I like to call it the great reset. We've had this global opportunity to rethink the way that we live and work. And I think everybody from rearranging their home lives, where they're living and how and where they're working, I think the importance of this and mental health, I think everything in the pandemic got forced to the forefront, including mental health. It was already in existence, but I think the pandemic really pushed it to the forefront and squeezed the pressure of importance that it really should be. And so that's why, we as an organization want to focus on this and show that we really genuinely do care about our people and want to support that with action.
Yeah. And one of the great actions we've taken as a company is bringing on Jess as well, to an awesome leadership role here at Phenom. So Jess, how's your Phenom experience been, since joining the team?
Well, it's so interesting, because I have had so much experience with Phenom in the past as a customer, and then a partner and a friend of so many people, including both of you, that coming into Phenom less than, just almost 3 months ago, it almost feels like coming to another home. So it's been phenomenal. And there's really an amazing culture. And, Brad and that team that's been focused on that for so long has built something that's really tangible. And so it's been awesome to be here. But it's interesting, too, because, when you talk about Brad's title, and I think Brad hit on it a little, but, some of the big statistics out there is that a C-suite, 97% of the C-suite know that mental health is a really important thing. Yet only 36% of companies are actually taking action, tangible, kind of physical and investment action. So I do think that Phenom's foresight to be able to repurpose and give Brad that elevated kind of exposure that we are hyper focused on that talent experience inside of our company is one of those psychological promises to an organization that we're actually doing something about it. So I do think that those are some very practical things that make a huge difference. And I think it's no surprise to me as I start to understand what the culture in Phenom is like, that Phenom would take that kind of action and elevate that role. So I think that's one thing that's really important, I think, to talk about today is empowering people that taking action and being authentic about it can make a huge difference. But yeah, I'm a Phenomer. I'm excited about being here.
Yeah, and as you might have guessed, we have a panel of Phenoms here today, right? So we're going to be talking a lot about how Phenom takes action, with this very critical, important topic. But, I see a lot of folks in the chat, Georgetta, Candalee, Corey, Keith, Laura, John Harrington, a lot of folks who are not from Phenom. So I want you to participate in the chat and let us know, what is your organization doing, right? Share comments. We definitely want to see as much engagement as possible. And we're so excited to have you. So Brad, you had mentioned, since the pandemic hit, it's really changed so much, right? And one of the recent stats that we've seen was mental health issues are affecting 76% of employees, right? That's 3 out of 4, right? So if you think about the 4 most recent colleagues that you've interacted with, 3 out of the 4 might be experiencing or working through mental health issues, right? And we're very familiar with a lot of the recent causes, that might have bubbled this at the forefront. But I honestly think, even before the pandemic, we started to see mental health awareness begin to rise. Brad, you're a co-founder of Phenom, so you've been here with Phenom since the beginning. Mental health has been in Phenom's DNA, since the beginning as well. Why do you think that's it's beginning to rise? Because if you think 15, 20, 25, 30 years, I think about my dad's generation, you didn't talk about these things, right? You just didn't talk about these things. And I'm kind of curious, why do you think it's starting to come to the forefront even before the pandemic?
Yeah, I think, the way that some countries in Europe attack work-life balance and the evolution of the 4-day work week being experimented with, I think people were starting to question, why are we driving an hour and a half every day? And why are we doing these behaviors? And I think that, to Jess's point earlier, right? He gave a talk on this, a couple of years ago, right? And so I think there was awareness, but I think that the pandemic really drove it to the forefront, because the lines got so blurred between personal and professional lives that we're now in each other's living rooms. Like you said, you didn't even talk about my dad would never talk about his personal life at work. That was foreign. That, you never brought your whole self to work. And so I think that the pandemic, again, has forced us to really share living rooms together, and and mental health is part of it. And how can we ask people to bring their whole selves to work if we're not going to take into account and accommodate and try to create an environment where they can actually do that?
Yeah, and as I mentioned too at the top of the episode, we can set the table, right? And we can talk about the why, and we can talk about the stats, right? And we'll definitely weave a lot of that into this, right? But one of the things I really wanted to do, and the three of us, we had a pre-call, and we really wanted to focus on the actions, right? What are the actions that we have taken? What are the actions that we can take? What can we learn from each other as we really try to tackle this challenge head on? And Jess, you have proactively built this point of view around mental health during your time at Lifetime. I had mentioned you participated in our events and talked about the topic. And you've designed programs, around this. So I'd love to know kind of your story behind that. What compelled you, to proactively take this step, and for all of the TXL fanatics out there, you touched on this a little bit in our episode, but for those who didn't catch that, what compelled you to initiate some of these programs, and what are some of the more popular ones that you launched?
Yeah, I don't know that I talked about, the entire manifestation of how we started Lifetime Mind at Lifetime Fitness. And we talk about Lifetime being a healthy way of life company, and we spent so many years thinking about nutrition, obviously physical fitness. And what happened was our CEO actually started to have a bit of a vision around really kind of completing that circle, that if we're thinking about the body, we're thinking about what we're putting into it, but are we really giving people the tools, especially our team members, the ability to actually work on their mind? And that's one of those things that's so important for, the listeners even, is that getting that executive buy-in, making sure that C-suite sees the benefit of it. That's where you really start to see a program kind of top down and bottom up start to grow. But what the goal was is that how do we actually destigmatize and normalize the conversations around mental health? You talked about that earlier, Tom, and the fact that we wanted to bring it into kind of the light rather than having it be covert. How do we make it an overt conversation that people feel like they can confidently talk about without putting themselves at risk in the organization, but also to be able to really get some tangible help with tools? And so what we did, and I certainly did not do it alone, we had some incredible professionals that came into the organization along with some really great people inside. But what we did is we integrated a mental health-based performance coaching program. So now instead of it saying I'm going to a counselor, I'm actually doing things to help me from a performance standpoint. And one of the challenges that Lifetime was having is that we had maximized a lot of the variables that allowed us to drive results in the organization. And as a performance-based company, we realized one of the things we really hadn't helped was our leadership to really engage in a way that maybe they hadn't engaged before by just giving them some ability to perform at a higher level. And what we know is that if we can help people with some low-level depression, anxiety, those things can really free people up to be able to engage in a different way. And so we integrated into that performance coaching real quickly. We integrated mindfulness. We integrated CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy. We integrated meditation. And then in that, we invited people and went public with a really great branded program. But that was 5 years ago. And at this point today, the latest stats that I have is 70% of the Lifetime Mind users are our leaders at Lifetime. And so what that means, though, is the trickle down there, because now all of a sudden leaders are using different language. Their empathy and their compassion increases, the way that they're interacting with their team and our consumer. It's just a game changer. So it's been a program that's been hugely popular and really successful, but it's just a matter of getting going, right? That's part of what we're talking about, taking some action and making it happen.
Yeah, a couple of things you mentioned that I think are important to call out there is, you brought in experts, right? And I think that's important
absolutely.
too. Don't pretend to be an expert. If this is new, to you, and cognitive behavioral therapy is a science, and if you're not familiar with that, you can't get in front of your entire team and pretend to be an expert on it. So bringing in experts to design some of these programs makes a lot of sense. I want to give a shout out to Georgetta in the chat, who is introducing a free tool out there which lets you do a mental health check. So we're talking about tools, right? We're talking about actionable things you can take. And this seems like a really simple one to do. So we will definitely check that out. So I wanted to ask you how your employees responded to that, Jess, but it sounds to me like your statistic around a lot of them becoming leaders within the company, it's like it unlocked, a bit of potential that was there. That when we think about things like anxiety, when we think about things like low level depression, it's really a barrier to really fulfilling that potential, right? So, in addition to unlocking the leadership, did you see any other immediate responses, from your employees?
Yeah, we did. We have hundreds of people that have participated, and anyone that's health benefited at Lifetime could participate. So that we saw hundreds of people involved. One of the things that we found, though, too, is that idea of destigmatizing, the idea of talking about mental health happened. So now we had area directors and general managers at the company willing to go and do a promotional thing at a nationwide call to say, this is how Lifetime Mind coaching has helped me. Now my entire department head group is doing it. And so we're now using common language and new tools to be able to actually manage the club. So whether people were directly involved in Lifetime Mind as a participant, or they were able to see the halo effect of people that had more capacity and better cognitive ability to manage how they think and then how they then act, made a huge impact. So part of that is that there's obviously you're always looking for an ROI, but there's also that idea of value of investment, that intangible contribution to a company's performance is really important.
I really like the word coaching. I'm kind of curious if you intentionally came up with that, compared to, some other terms that might be more tied to mental health, like counseling, and to me, it's like when we think about destigmatizing and making these things more accessible, some people are, a little averse to like therapy, right? They are a little averse to counseling because there's a stigmatization there, right? And we need to destigmatize those terms. But when you say coaching, it feels more inviting to me, than if you were to say counseling or something else. And I'm curious if what went into coming up with that term.
Well, that's where we relied on our outside professional group. They were saying we need to have a mental health based group of people. So the coaches, the physical coaches at Lifetime have mental health backgrounds, yet they then turn and think about coaching, teaching, counseling, all on a continuum. So they all have different focus points or different levers. And so the coaching piece with mental health professional using the coaching techniques, that was the game changer. And that was that outside third party that any company that wants to get involved in that or, kind of look at it, they can do discovery and they can get a hold of us or a hold of me, and I can get them connected to that group. But it made the difference. And, the way I looked at it is, whether you call it counseling or whether you call it coaching, if our leaders and our people are getting the support and the help and the tools they need, game over. All
Yeah.
day
Yep.
long. We'll name it whatever we need to name it, right?
Yeah. Related to that, I saw a really great LinkedIn post yesterday from a recruiter. So this ties into the candidate and recruiter experience, where the recruiter was commenting that she noticed an uptick in the amount of candidates who had casually mentioned either therapy or their therapist in conversations, right? In those initial phone screens, those initial conversations. So already, just in the, candidate experience, it feels like the destigmatization is starting to really take flight, where it's okay for a candidate to talk to a recruiter and mention therapy and their therapist. There's no fear, there's no reservations there. So I thought that was really great.
Yeah.
I want to ask Brad, some of the programs that we've started to really experiment with and launch here at Phenom. I know that we've been experimenting with mental health initiatives for a while now, for years. But a few of the recent ones have been pretty rewarding and pretty exciting for me personally, and I'll share a personal anecdote in a little bit. But I'm curious, Brad, if you want to jump into some of the things you've been most excited about in terms of recent things that we've launched.
Absolutely. And I love the theme that you started the show with, is getting back to the basics, right? And one of my favorite books is called Everything I Ever Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten, right? And that is, eat your veggies, exercise, right? We all know the right things to do, right? We know the answers to the test. And so with that in mind, meditation is something very near and dear to our culture and organization here. And I think even just how we started this show is a good example how we weed that into our daily DNA here. And so I know I start meetings sometimes with a meditation session. We have an expert in India with us that like you said, bring in the experts. And so we have somebody that an employee who's with us today that she offers daily meditation sessions to the whole company. And so that is available to anybody and everybody when they want to take advantage of that. And I think it's creating these environment and resources, right? And so having meditation available is a great one. We just rolled out $1,000 mental health benefit for everybody to use for themselves or individually or their family members for coaching or counseling or therapy. I think the words used to matter more. I think now it's been destigmatized that whatever we call it, getting help, right, is really the key theme there and the important. And so making that available to people has been we've had about a 5% utilization rate on that benefit. And it's only been rolled out for about 3 months now. So personally love to see that, and a lot of people question, how do we measure the return on something like that, right? It is always an interesting topic. And I think it's similar to DE&I and right, is that you just know it's the right thing to do and being human about it. And of course, you've got your lagging metrics like attrition and retention, that everybody are looking at and measuring. But, I think it's just the human nature and the humanity of it, right? And knowing that it's just the right thing to do is how we're able to justify, offering, at least when it came to the dollars of the mental health benefit there. And so some other things that have been successful have been coffee chats. We've had 20-minute coffee sessions, open discussions, a lot of the social injustices that happened over the course of the past 2 years. We just had open discussion rooms so people could just talk, right? Let it out, get it out in the open and just give people a forum. And a lot of these things, they don't cost anything necessarily, right? Setting up a coffee chat or, an open discussion room doesn't have to be expensive or difficult, right, to get these conversations going. And they're really beneficial and helpful to people. And so other things that have been successful have been step challenge. We had a global step challenge, get everybody moving and walking, right? I loved seeing the comments in the beginning of the show of what you do for self-care. And you always hear the same things when it comes to happiness or mental health. And it's get out in nature, exercise, eat right, meditation, right? And so, there's always these same themes. And so how can we now create an environment where those things can easily happen and have them be flexible and personalized? Because, the person who needs to drive their kids to school at 7:25 every morning when they're not ready until 7:20, right, is very different than, the person who's home alone and single and experiencing loneliness, right? And they just might need that. We had We've done some mental health buddies as well, is another thing, that's worked, where just, hey, somebody to check in, either personally or professionally, by the way, right? You can have somebody at work. I have a COVID buddy at work, and I have a COVID buddy outside of work as well. And so that's been very beneficial. And so those are just a couple of the things. And the last really good one was we organized a dog walk, right? And so getting everybody out in nature, right? Pets are always a great, other remedy for mental health. And so, getting all, sunlight is another one. Plants, we just got a double, we double dipped for Earth Day, right? We got, we gave plants away for everybody to have on their desk. And it's very interesting because people who are lonely during the pandemic, plants have been a real boon and something to wake up for, care for every day, nurture. And so that's been another good one as well.
Brad, you said just a couple of things, but I ran out of fingers, as I was trying to count all the things that you shared. So there's quite a few things that you mentioned that we've been up to here at Phenom. So really appreciate that. I'm not going to try to break down all of them, but I want to take a pause just to give a shout out to all the comments in the chat. So, you had mentioned, a lot of walking, a lot of physical activity. Devin, 6 a.m. workouts. Sarah from Philly, going on walks with her dog, with a pet, meditation, journaling. Patry from Medford Lakes, walking around the neighborhood with the pup. Georgetta walks in nature. Carrie, shout out to Carrie, finishing the day with yoga. Once again, walking the dog, gym workout. It's almost impossible to separate body and mind, So I think once we acknowledge that body and mind are so woven together, and we think about nutrition and sunlight and all these other things, physical activity, it's super, super critical. And we love our Earth Day plant here. It's sitting right above our sink on the windowsill. So we've been reflecting on that, watching that grow. So that's been a lot of fun too. Really great opportunity to kind of break down some of the things that you had mentioned. But one of the things I wanted to ask Jess, from the CHRO perspective, right? When we're addressing leaders who might look at that list of things that they can experiment with, things that they can do, and then pick and choose, which ones do you want to take? Which ones do you want to try out? Which ones do you want to invest in? I feel like there's a hesitance, to just jump in at risk of being inauthentic, and I think authenticity is really critical here, so there's different stages. One is, you say you care, but you don't do anything. The second is you say you care and you do some things, but you do the things in a way that doesn't really look like you care. Right. And then, the third stage is you really care, you do the things, and people feel that you care. So when leaders are really starting to invest and starting to execute some of these programs, how do you weave it into your employer brand and weave it into your execution so that it really does feel authentic?
Yeah, I think Brad actually hit part of it, and part of it is this idea that we know that it's the right thing to do, and so there's that kind of moral decree that says, "Hey, organizations, your employees are asking you to pick up that mantle and to do something about it." The other piece, though, with a company then is a corporation needs to have an outcome as well. So if you can actually figure out the kind of the moral compulsion to want to do it because it feels like the right thing to do, then you can finally find that piece that says, we can actually make this work financially where we can commit to it for 5 years, right? It's 6 years. It's ongoing and running and growing. Then you really start to find that I think the authenticity grows in the organization, because I think that say-do factor that you're talking about is really important. And I think one of the things you can do as an organization is decide to take action and then sustain. You have to do it just to determine you're going to do it long term, and you're going to figure out how to add to it and then hyper focus in the things that really actually make the largest difference. You might start with 4 things and find that 2 really make the difference. Hyper focus there and make that happen. I think the other thing too then is start at the beginning, go back to the basics of your organization and say, are we a part of our mission and vision as an organization? Have we integrated it there? So rewrite the vision, rewrite the mission, rewrite the values of your organization and say, we have reflected and we're coming out in a new way with who we are and what we want to be from a brand standpoint, especially an employment brand. And when I think about that, there's a couple of statements that I'll throw at people. One is I think about how do I create a human-centered environment in my organization? And then how does that change our workplace to a caring place? Not a soft place, a caring place, right? Because caring sometimes can be difficult. It can be hard. It can be confrontational. But that idea of really becoming human-centric is, I think, so important. And statistically, you're 4 times more likely to get praise and have people want to actually recommit to you as an organization and not leave. So there's some real tangible benefits of it. So I think it's really thinking about kind of starting at the basics. It's that senior level commitment. It's the idea of looking at the vision and the values of your organization and then integrating that into who you are and how you're speaking to it, to the candidate as well as the employee once they join in. Again, what I said I was going to do and we were going to do as an organization, we are doing. And that's that whole idea of the platform unit at Phenom, right? How do we create a relationship with the candidate and keep that relationship going all the way through the employee journey? So I think that's how you start to think about it as a CHRO, is how do we put it into our job brand, our candidate or our employment brand? How do we make sure that we actually have a really good say-do factor and sustain long-term? Because we do know there are some measurable outcomes, including more of the intangible ones that you feel and know, that really come out to show. So I think that's a piece of it, is you have a lot of good things to say, package them up and say them well, and then determine to do them.
Yeah. Celeste writes in the chat, caring can be confrontational, but it's so vital to have the human experience at the heart of your operations. I love that, right? The idea that humans are at the heart, like humans are at the heart of what we do. And I know, for those who have only recently met Phenom, prior to just being Phenom, we were Phenom people, right? And people has been at the heart of what we do. So I love that a lot. Jess, you and I talked about this when we had our face-to-face conversation on TXL, the paradigm shift of employees saying to employers, you need me. That has shifted, or, basically, employers saying to employees, you are here for me. Now it's shifted to where employers have the opportunity to really say to their employees and show with actions, I'm here for you, and that level of servant leadership and showing up for your employees, it is caring, right? And maybe the C in the C-suite should be caring, right? Because it should be baked in, it should be baked into what you see and feel from the leadership, on down. Brad had mentioned this, you don't always have the tangible ROI, and Jess, you just mentioned this as well. Sometimes you have to take a leap because you just know it's the right thing to do. At Lifetime, for example, did you run into some friction, or did you run into that as well when you're really trying to make some of those hard decisions? Because these programs, they do cost money. It is an investment. You're not always going to be able to calculate the ROI. You might have other folks on your team, who are kind of raising the flag and saying, are we going too far here? Are we doing too much? Like, what should we do? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, I think there's always, when you're involving a new program and, money's coming from somewhere, and it's going to, there's an opportunity cost with any investment that you make. And so a couple of things. One, we did report on it as much as we could with tangible impact, even if it was just penetration, as I mentioned, right? 70% of the people who are participating are leaders. And then we talked about that trickle down. So that it was keeping it front and center. It was reporting what we could report that was successful. And we asked the organization, right? Even I did, as the C-suite, our CEO, what does success look like to you? And then let's drive towards that. And then also asking people who were participating to be willing to actually talk about the change and the impact in their lives. That became a really important piece. I will say, though, that the program could be as large as you want it to be, but there is a limiter on what you can invest. And so what I would say is you have to try to stretch it as far as possible, keep it as small as necessary. And that incremental growth over 5 years in the program, for instance, at Lifetime, that has kind of stair-stepped as we've seen the impact. So even if you have to start small and then report on it and defend it and get those people who are champions to champion it, and then incrementally build it to something that's even larger. So it's the same strategy as a lot of other businesses that you're kind of incubating and growing and moving. I think sometimes we get a little bit almost on our kind of our platform and say, we have to do this, and we're going to do this at 1,000 miles an hour and 1,000 feet tall. When in fact, we might start at 100 miles an hour and 100 feet tall, and that's okay. But starting small, I think, and then continuing to challenge the measurement, and then knowing that there might be limits to the budget until there aren't necessarily those limits anymore. I think working within that framework and doing the best, most dynamic program you can is super important.
Yeah, Brad had mentioned, to us in the past, weigh the cost of inaction, right? Think about the cost of inaction. Brad, do you have any thoughts on that and kind of going through that mentally?
Yes, I was just going to say, right, the price of doing nothing, right, is way greater, right, than and I think what I love about this, this episode here is we're talking about things that you can do, right? And whether they're, like you said, 100 miles an hour and 100 feet just to get started, there are definitely such little wins that you can get to get started, right? And so I just encourage people, put a step challenge together, even with your immediate team of 5 or 10 people that you are, right? Like these are, let's all make sure that we go out for the walk with the dog. Let's do it together on FaceTime or a Zoom, if even, right? Again, that, and so I think the opportunity cost of doing nothing is way greater than even any investments that we would need to make. And so one other surprising statistic I learned in this process was the employee assistance program, right? Is that companies have these. Very few employees, honestly, in my experience, know about them, utilize them. We have had about a 3.5% utilization rate on which I was actually even surprised, to hear that we had that much usage on it. But I think that's another thing that gets maybe lost in the shuffle that companies can also do. These are usually available through your insurance provider anyway, and that's something else you can bring to the forefront that a lot of people are unaware of. And so that's also another easy give, for people to offer.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're going to start to wrap things up, just being mindful of the time here. The three of us could talk about this topic for hours, but I think we want to make sure we bring on Sarisha, who will be able to talk to us about mindfulness and meditation and really go into a little bit of detail on what we do here at Phenom. And, mindfulness has been a part of Phenom's DNA since the beginning, since the inception of the company, it seems. Promoting meditation. Our co-founder Mahi has spoken about spirituality and how important it is to him openly, to us. And we've opened up our events, hundreds of people in a room. We've opened those events up with a meditation, which you don't typically see at live events. Really fantastic stuff that we do here at Phenom. It feels natural, right? It's a part of our DNA. Brad, I'm curious if you have any thoughts, because you came into this culture here at Phenom. If an organization doesn't have that built into their DNA, do you think that you have any tips on how they can get started, how they can start to introduce it, even if it feels unnatural to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think starting on a very small scale and level, again, it takes usually one either leader or one passionate person, and it doesn't have to be meditation. It could be yoga. It could be, right. There are other, there are other options and there are different forms of meditation, which Sarisha can get into. There are walking meditations there, right? And so I think figuring out your company's DNA and taking that small action and just putting, just take the leap of faith and again, start small with your team and implement it and see how it takes and then iterate based off of, what people are, the feedback you get.
And, one of the things that you had touched on earlier, Brad, that I was, as an employee, super excited about. So, at times, an employee might struggle directly with mental health and with challenges. But many times it's not necessarily the employee themselves, but it's their family, right? Someone in their family who might be going through something or struggling with something. And, we live in a time, obviously, we touched on this at the top of the show, where we can't expect employees to just check their personal life at the door, and just, I'm at home, I'm home. My youngest daughter's upstairs right now, so I can't just act like I'm in a bubble, I can't act like I'm in a different world. So because we can't do that, I thought it was really incredible, Brad, how our mental health benefit, the $1,000, kind of stipend to invest in our mental health, it wasn't just for me, but it was for our families as well. It was eligible for our families as well. And I would love to see more companies do this type of thing. I'd love to see more companies introduce programs that don't just benefit and support the individual employee, but extends the benefit and extends the care to their families as well. And Jess, I want to kind of turn it over to you. Do you have any thoughts on this? On maybe going with the theme of crawl, walk, run. That we've been kind of talking about.
Yeah.
What are some ways that you think employers, and leaders, HR leaders, can start to think about extending these types of benefits to families?
Yeah, I actually want to go back to, Brad starting the program at Phenom. And when he and I were talking about the origins of that, he was like, I just felt like I couldn't wait any longer as a senior executive here. We had to do something. And that's what we did. And we know with 5% impact after 3 months, that's significant. And so I think part of it for an organization is have a champion, and then have that champion decide to spend some of their social and corporate equity to be able to say, I'm willing to go out on the line and I'm willing to find the budget and the time to do this. And that's so exciting, right? That's what courage is all about. That's what a caring space is all about, is people that are willing to spend a little of themselves for the good of the whole. And so I think, and there's champions like that in organizations all over, and they don't necessarily have to be co-founders like Brad or, senior executives. They can be champions from other positions too, right? So my encouragement is, even some of the people that have put in some great stuff in the chats today, if you're a champion, you have a voice, I think starting that conversation in your organization and then finding other people that will jump on is important. I think the other piece too is that I think we're starting to see a trend across the country where instead of talking about someone's physical health and then their mental health and then their social health and their financial health, get involved in the 401k or get involved in your benefits or your family's health. Now we're looking at it as well-being, and we're even in a transition now to just talk about one health. There is no separation of people's personal and professional lives. We have one health. We have our mind, our body, and our spirit, and we bring it everywhere we go. And if an organization asks me to shut it off, you're asking me to shut off a piece of who I am and what I can bring to the organization. It's not possible. We lived in a fiction before, and now the opportunity is for us to live in a real dialogue and in something that's tangible that we can talk about. And when you have young Generation Z people coming into the interview process, freely talking about their own mental health process and what they're doing from a wellness standpoint, like you talked about earlier, Tom, that's part of that bottom up and top down, where we see a change in our organization, we see a change in our country, and those are the pieces that will, I think, help as well. So I know that's kind of a roundabout kind of answer, but I wanted to hit on some of those things. They're all important when trying to figure out how to start tangible programs. And that's what we're talking about today, is how do you take action? Let's not talk about the stats. Let's talk about doing something that we think is going to make a big impact.
Yeah, and I'm going to get personal for a second. We did make that impact here at Phenom. My daughter, my middle daughter, she's 6 years old, and she's been really struggling mentally, since the pandemic hit. And 2021, we really struggled, my wife and I, with taking the right action. We talk about the cost of inaction. It was really hard for us to know the right path forward. And it was a really challenge financially, finding the right specialist, the right person to go talk to. And we really grappled with that. So when we think about me as the employee, I'm in my mid 30s. I've had a run, I've had some time to figure out what do I need to do to take care of my mental fitness, and I have my routines and I have my tactics, right? Well, my daughter's only 6 and she doesn't have that yet, so we were really struggling with helping her find that so she can cope with a lot of the challenges that a lot of children are faced with, today. Right. And not just children, but extended family. And honestly, Brad, I want to thank you personally, because that benefit being extended to the family was the catalyst. Like, that was the catalyst for me to say, to my wife, like, we have to take advantage of this benefit. There's the cost of inaction has been building up and it's too great, and again, my situation is not unique. I know that many families are, faced with something very similar. And I'll be honest, it's not dire, but these are the types of things that they never start dire, they start small, they start low level. And it's just been a real blessing for us, just to be able to take advantage of that benefit. So thank you both, for being invested in this issue and being invested in taking action. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing, Tom. We appreciate you sharing your personal, anecdote there. And I think I just got the ROI that I needed on this program, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
that's right, Brad. That's right.
So thank you for that. We appreciate you utilizing it and talking about it so openly, because I think that's what people need, that permission. And one other point very quickly I wanted to make was the role of the HR business partner now is making sure that people like you, Tom, take advantage. And I think that the one wellness, I think wellness is really the theme, right? And making sure that, you have a 6-year-old daughter who needed help. Somebody else might need it for themselves or their aging parents or whatever that, whatever that persona is, right? Making sure that we as an organization are partnering so that the individuals take advantage of the wellness, right? Making sure that one wellness. I love that term.
Yeah, absolutely. Because whatever we're going through and our extended families are going through, we bring that to work, even if it's a tiny little fraction, it comes with us. Right. And I think supporting the whole picture, supporting the whole being, supporting one wellness, to Jess's point, it goes such a long way. So thank you both. Thank you both for an incredible dialogue today. Again, we could have continued on and on, and really going deep into the many things that Brad had mentioned to you that we're doing here at Phenom. Again, I ran out of fingers as I was counting them. So I'm going to turn it over. Any final thoughts? We'll start with Brad. Any final thoughts today?
Yes, the continuing with that theme of getting back to the basics, just do something, right? A walk, pet your dog, a 1-minute team meditation, right? Just a simple do something is my best advice. Start small, iterate, get feedback, and take it from there.
Awesome. And Jess, take us home. Any final thoughts today?
Yeah, I would say if you're taking notes for your company, if you're taking notes as a leader, think about it in 4 categories: prevention, access to programs that work, that we listed, like that are working at Phenom, flexible working situations so that you're aware of what people need and giving them the opportunity to be productive and to be able to have flexibility. And then remember, it's about a caring space, going from a workspace to a caring space. Those things: prevention, access to things that work, flexible situation, and a caring space. You can really be magical to the human capital that ultimately fuels everything else.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you both. This has been an incredible dialogue, and the show is not over. So we will let Brad and Jess, get back to a fruitful day. Thank you both for joining us. Really appreciate it. You dropped a lot of wisdom today and a lot of inspiration for actions that organizations can take. So a lot of sound bites. If you're just joining in late or you joined in halfway, definitely rewind, watch the full recording, watch it on demand. If you think that your organization can do more and should do more, take this recording, take this link and share it with your manager, share it with your manager's manager, share it with the right folks, get this in the right hands. We would love to have this dialogue continue at your organization. So thank you both. And hope you have a fantastic day. Enjoy the week, enjoy the weekend.
Thanks,
and,
Tom.
Can't wait to have you on a future episode.
Look forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Take care.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. Jess Elmquist and Brad Goldoor, two, incredible thought leaders in the space, but it's more than just the thoughts. It's about the actions, right? And we've seen what they have been able to do when they commit to those actions. Celeste writes, thank you. So Celeste, thank you. Thank you for joining. Really appreciate it. One of the things that I've been thinking about throughout this conversation in the past couple of days, I actually posted on LinkedIn this morning. I think that all employees are looking at their leadership, looking at their managers, the C-suite, and they're thinking quietly, what do you stand for, right? What do you stand for? There's so much happening in the world today. It's critical that we feel that, right? We feel, what do you stand for? And if you're not able to feel that, you're likely going to try to find a leader or find a company where you can feel it, right? So it's important. And we think about the Great Resignation, March, for example, last March, record high resignations and quits, right? 4.5 million. I calculated that if you took, I think it was 54 or 57, if you took the largest 57 stadiums in the United States and filled them, you would just barely get to 4.5 million. So 57 stadiums, that's how many employees are quitting, are leaving their company, right? And they're leaving for these types of reasons, right? You can argue that it's for money, it's for, it's for greater pay or different benefits. But really, I believe that people are asking, what do you stand for? And they want to know, they want to feel it. And I just really appreciate that Brad and Jess were able to come on and really share what they stand for. And one of the things we stand for here at Phenom is meditation and mindfulness, right? And it's part of our DNA. We talked about that earlier. And I want to introduce to the show Sarisha, who is Phenom's meditation instructor. And we're going to have a quick dialogue, and we're going to talk all about meditation and mindfulness. So let's bring Sarisha onto the show. Sarisha, how are you?
Hi, Tam. Hi, I'm good.
Good evening.
How about you?
Good evening for you.
Good morning to you.
Yeah. So we are on two different sides of the globe, but it's awesome. This is the beauty of being able to connect over the web, right, and have these conversations. So you are a meditation instructor, here at Phenom, and you do daily meditations, right? They're offered for the entire Phenom team worldwide, which is really cool. And they are they're at friendly times, where anybody can tune in, right? Anybody can join these. So I would love for you to educate us, right, on meditation and mindfulness and bring some of your expertise to us. First, I kind of want to ask, what's your origin story? How did you get started in meditation and mindfulness? How did this become an area of focus for you?
Yeah, it's been like 10 years I have started meditation. In my final year of my bachelor's, I have started meditating. So from that moment, when I started practicing meditation, I realized a thing that whatever the things we are chasing out, so it's already within. So we have to go deep inside ourselves to really find what we are and who we are. So when I realized that, the way of my thinking is completely changed. So then I realized maybe some things make us happy, some things make us sad, but we always have a choice of being blissful. So that blissfulness, we can make that so strong and nothing can alter that blissfulness. So maybe it's been 10 years of So when I realized that, then I started spreading this meditation to each and everyone around me. I was a software engineer earlier, so before I was into this meditation. So I used to tell about this meditation experiences to each and everyone, to my colleagues, to my relatives, to my friends, and that's how spreading of meditation has started.
I love that. One of my heroes is a gentleman named Joseph Campbell, and he kind of formulated this thing called the hero's journey. I won't geek out over the hero's journey, but if anybody wants to geek out over the hero's journey, reach out to me on LinkedIn. But he has a saying, follow your bliss. So when you talk about, finding the blissfulness within, I really resonate with that. We know that meditation and mindfulness can be a pathway to go inward, right? And to start to find that and get in touch with your true self. What does that look like here at Phenom? So you run daily sessions, but meditation has many different types, many different flavors. So why don't you share kind of what types of sessions do we run here? What's your general approach for helping the team, kind of get in touch with that?
Yes. Actually, meditation might be of many types, but what I wish to say is meditation, what are the techniques we are using? Every technique leads to the thoughtless state of the mind. So every technique just reflects to make our mind completely empty. So everything we do, everything. So it might be different. So we practice mantra, meditation, many things, but still everything comes into a common point that it just empties the mind. So what I would like to emphasize is this pandemic has been so tough on every person in this, every person across the globe. I agree with that, because it affected every person mentally. So physically, there is nothing like we can be so challenged. When our mind is completely strong, then definitely our physical health is the benefit. So 99% of all the physical problems, whatever we are suffering this day, the root cause of all the physical problems would be an emotional imbalance. So the reflection. For example, we feel that when our sitting position is not correct, then we suffer from this spondylitis. No, that is not true. So when we have too many worries about the future, too many anxieties about the future, then we suffer from spondylitis. So there comes the emotional imbalance. So that reflects on the physical body in that way. So the main intention of mindfulness, so to achieve the mindfulness, see, mindfulness is nothing, mindfulness is to be in the present moment. Meditation helps us completely focus on this present moment, to rejoice ourselves in this present moment. So I say Phenom has taken a revolutionary step towards the employees in building the mental wellness program. So this was really a revolutionary step. So it completely emphasizes on the mental well-being of the employees. So the how, and it is not just with the Phenom, and it is also related to the, I mean, it is also included the employees, relatives of the Phenoms, and with their little words. So everyone can be included in that, because employee alone is not there. So we have dedicated practice sessions runs regularly every day. So from Monday to Friday, we have regular practice sessions happening at the Phenom. So how it would be is, we will have a 5 minutes of breath exercises, breathing exercises for the first 5 minutes, and for the rest of the 5 minutes, we'll have a gratitude session. So however our life might be, we can just be grateful for the life. See, if it is so happy, we can be grateful. If it is so challenged, we can still be grateful because it is teaching us something. So this is how our thoughts get neutralized, and the next 5 minutes with the gratitude, our emotions get neutralized. And after that, we will be into a silence of stillness, just being with our normal breath, which is nothing but the meditation. So we practice here. How it is happening is anapanasati meditation. It is derived from the Pali language. So ana, it's an inhalation. Apana, it's an exhalation. Sati, to be with. So to be with our normal inhalation and exhalation. So when we be with our normal breath, then we are not going to work out anything with our mind. So when we'll not work, when our mind is completely still, then we'll be completely in the thoughtless state. So generally body benefits through the movement, but mind benefits through the stillness. So to make our mind extraordinarily still, we'll completely focus, we'll completely observe the breath the way it is. We are not doing anything. We are just looking into the thing, what is naturally happening inside us. That is called anapanasati. For the rest of the 20 minutes, we'll be in the complete silence. So we have tried on many of the employees, and it worked out better, and now it got extended to the employees, families, relatives as well. So this is how it is happening.
Yeah, I love that you broke down to what it translates to, right? So the idea of just being with the breath, right? And I think it's so critical, right? So important. I brought up at the beginning of the episode this book that I've read twice now, Breath, by James Nestor, and it's also backed in science, right? And I think that's important too, because I think a lot of people, they might be hesitant to jump into mindfulness or meditation because maybe they're not spiritual people, right? So they think like meditation and mindfulness is always connected to spirituality, right? Not always, like in many cases, science has backed the benefits of meditation and the benefits of being with the breath, right? So I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that too.
Yes. Actually, we feel that meditation is completely different. We feel that it is not a cup of tea. No, this is never like that. Meditation has to become a part of our life because you say that spiritual life. What exactly the spirit means? It comes from the word called spiro. Spiro means breath.
Yeah.
It means, yes,
Yep.
it's breath. Yeah. Yes, breath. So, which means that we have to we have to start our day with the breath, with the conscious breath. See, what I mean to put is, in a very simple words, we'll be looking into a movie, but we will not look into the movie completely. We'll be having the food, but we will not eat it so conscious. So we are lost with the past tense, or we are lost with the future tense. We are never completely present in this present moment. So meditation helps us to practice ourselves to be in this present moment. It is nothing like so spiritual. It is so practical.
Yeah.
It is to apply on the physical world. It is to apply everything. So we feel that when we meditate, we go outside, or we are completely separate from this outer world. It is never like that. It is a serious encounter with the outer world.
Yeah.
With mindfulness.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you had mentioned earlier too, one of the goals is to, be still and empty the mind, right?
Yes.
I have the mind of a puppy. So like I have a dog's mind, right? And not just any dog, a young dog. So my mind has a hard time staying still. Even when I try to meditate, when I work on my own individual practice, my mind jumps from topic to topic, even when I'm trying to focus on my breath. So do you have any advice, for beginners? Do you have any advice or any thoughts for beginners who are like me, where you have the dog's mind, you have the puppy's mind, where, I wish I had the lion's mind, right? Because if you have the lion's mind, anything can be happening around you and you're not moving a muscle. But that's just not me today. So what are your thoughts, and advice for beginners who might struggle calming the mental activity?
The first thing which we need to change inside is the way we think about the meditation. No, meditation is really very simple. It's nothing like everybody's mind. So the average person thinks about 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a day. It's with you, me, with everyone else. So to silence the mind, we are not doing anything. We'll be just observing our breath the way it is. The main important thing is how many times we go to the thoughts, we wander with the thoughts. When we find them, just come back to your breath again and again. Come back to your breath. So slowly what happens? The time gap between coming back to the breath reduces.
Yeah.
So we will be with our breath constantly.
Yeah.
So the only tip is how many times you go. We need not to worry about that.
Sure.
Because thoughts are not the hurdles in meditation. They are part of meditation. So how many times you go, you wander your mind, come back to your breath, come back to your breath. How many times you can, so when we make that, it would be so clear.
That's so helpful to hear you say that thoughts are a part of the meditation, because sometimes when the thoughts creep in, I can feel like I'm not doing it right, and I guess it's not really about doing it right. It's about the act of doing it. And if you stray, to come back, and if you stray, come back. Right.
Yes, we have to come back. That matters a lot. So generally what people do is when they have an interruption of thought, they stop the meditation. No.
Sure.
So when we restart it, again, we restart from the same place. So to make that anything, body, mind will never accept the change. So if we need to change that, if we need to make that accustomed, so what we need to do is we have to come back to our breath again and again. That is the only thing we can do.
Super helpful. And, I know it's very important to, if you want to get better at your practice, you have to do it regularly, so do you have any advice? Do you have any advice on consistency? How do you build it into your day? How do you make sure that you are really treating this like a practice so that you can build it, like a muscle? Do you have any thoughts on how busy professionals, and you work with so many phenoms who are very busy, at all hours of the day. What do you recommend in terms of baking it into your routine?
The first thing is for whatever things we make a choice, we'll always have time. If we are not making that as our practice, which means that we are not prioritizing it. First thing is we have to prioritize the meditation. See, we have an idea that whenever I have a time, then I'll meditate. Okay, I don't have any friends with me to speak, so I'll meditate. It's never be like that. So like how we eat every day, like how we sleep every day, like how we drink water, how we breathe every day, how every minute and every second. So the meditation has to be in that priority, not in this priority, because meditation is such important. So the one tip which I can say to everyone is, the first thing what we'll be doing after we wake up, we'll be opening our eyes. And the last thing, we'll close our eyes. So the first thing, we have to start our day with meditation. Whenever the day might be, whether you may start your day with 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock or at 8 o'clock, whatever, even at 12 o'clock, maybe sometimes the lazy Saturdays or lazy Sundays. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So whenever we are going to start our day, we have to start our day with meditation. And when we are going to end our day, we have to end our day with meditation. So when we end our day with meditation, everything clears up and we are ready for this next day. And when we start our day with meditation, we can encounter the outer world so mindfully.
For folks who are very busy, and again, your point was great. If it's important, we make time for it. But do you have a general rule of thumb on like how much time is a good? It's going to vary for everyone, I'm sure. But like, how much time can we invest? If we start our day with 5 minutes and end our day with 5 minutes, is that a good step in the right direction? Ideally, we're investing more time, but is that still worth it? To jump in with 5 minutes at a time.
Generally, we have to meditate minimum, at least according to our age. Yes.
Awesome. Helpful. That's very helpful.
Because, the more we grow in the age, the more we start accumulating the things inside.
Yep.
If you look into the 5-year-old kid, he'll not have any things to accumulate.
Sure.
So when he grow in the age, everything starts. We accumulate more things. So when we are 60, we grandsons, grandsons, we accumulate many things. So the more we grow in the age, the more we put into our mind. So at least we have to meditate according to our age. If we are 30, we have to meditate at least for 30 minutes in a day.
That's so helpful. And can you break that up? Like, is it okay to break that up? If you do 15 minutes here.
Initially, we can break.
Yeah, sure.
Initially, but
the goal
later on, we have to sit with.
Yes. To find that 30 minutes to sit with yourself, to be still.
Yes.
Yep. Awesome.
And the very next important thing I would say is group meditation is really very important. So when we meditate in a group, we will not break that chain. So maybe if we are lazy today, we'll skip the meditation. But when we meditate in a group, as we have introduced meditation into the working hours now, so in the 9 hours of working hours, half an hour can be meditation. The session is. So
Perfect.
When we meditate in a group, what happens is we get that inspiration from the other members.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
Yeah. So we get the inspiration from the team members, and the group meditation is sometimes it is more powerful than the individual meditation because we blend our energies and consciousness with the other team members. It builds the acceptance towards the team members. So when we meditate in a group regularly, we build an acceptance towards it, though they are not our team, though we don't know them, but still we build certain acceptance. So we share our energies, we share our consciousness with every team, and this builds the harmony within the group. So the group might be, when we meditate with our colleagues in the workspace, trust me, the harmony would be in the highest level. If we meditate with the family members, it brings the harmony in the family. So we need to make a little groups of friends. So if we'll go out and we'll have a nice walk in the evening, so
Sure.
we have to make a group with the friends and we have to meditate with the group.
And I imagine that builds accountability too, right? Because if you commit to doing it with a group at a specific time each day, you're going to show up for each other, not just show up for yourselves. Janet Lynn, mentions that she sets daily reminders for meditation, so we have so much technology. There's apps out there. There are, we can set alarms, we can set reminders in our phones, just to keep us on task, right? To keep us remembering to build this practice. So I love that as well. Janet, thank you for that. So we're way over time. We typically only go an hour. We're about an hour and 15 minutes now. So Sarisha, we really wanted to open up meditation to our audience, but we both agreed that LinkedIn Live isn't the way to do it, for 5 minutes. We really need to spend more time. And also, you had mentioned, which I thought was such a great point, it's helpful to see each other, right? To see each other and be able to respond to each other. So one of the things that we're going to do during the month of Mental Health Awareness Month, we're going to try to arrange for something that our audience can sign up for to attend with Sarisha and with the Phenom team, so that we can open up meditation practice to folks outside of Phenom and begin to experience what this can do to really help build up your mindset throughout the day, and introduce a little bit of mindfulness and well-being into your life. So we don't have the sign up page up yet. So keep tuning in to Talent Experience Live. We'll have an update on the next episode or the episode after that. And we'll share how you can get involved. So Sarisha, thank you for volunteering to help lead us there.
Thank you for this.
Lead us there. And thank you for coming and educating us. I learned a ton. Just understanding how much is linked to the breath, I think was really interesting to me, really helpful when we think about spirituality.
Breath is the source.
Yes.
Breath is the source of our life.
Yeah, when we think about that, when we think about oxygen, and when we also think about how our body just naturally is doing it, and just focusing on the natural rhythm of it, goes such a long way. So Sarisha, thank you so much for joining. We'll keep the dialogue going, and again, for all of our viewers today, and if you're watching the replay, stay tuned, follow Phenom, come to the next TXL. We will share an opportunity that we're working on for non-phenoms to come join us, right, and join a meditation session with Sarisha and learn, and we'll do it together, right? We'll bring that communal energy together, and we'll hold each other accountable. So Sarisha, thank you. Hope you have a great evening. And
thank you so much. Thank you for this great opportunity. Thank you. I'm so glad to welcome you all for the meditation practice. I'm always there to help you out anytime.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're going to make it happen. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
So there you have it. Again, a long episode today, but really packed full of actionable things that you can do at your organization, things that you can do to take that crawl, walk, run approach to bring mental health awareness to the forefront, but actually start to move things forward at your organization. Super, super excited to have Sarisha on too, right? We have a dedicated meditation instructor here at Phenom, which is amazing. And just to learn more about this, and again, ways that I can calm my puppy mind is always great to learn more about as well. So we're going to work on that session. Stay tuned. Also tune into the next episode, especially if you commented, if you liked or shared this. We are going to be giving away 1-year annual subscription to the Calm app. So that's going to happen next week. I want to give a shout out to our video producer, Justin Devitt. He is behind the scenes, always pulling the strings. Amazing. The work he does is so helpful. Shout out to our executive producer on this episode, Patri Chupa. She plans all of our program content. She connects with our guests. She helps in so many different ways as well. She is here in the chat on LinkedIn. Give her a shout, connect with her. We're always looking for topic ideas and guest ideas. So if you have either of those things, let myself know or let Patri know, and we will definitely reach out and connect with you. Thank you so much. Very engaged chat today. Thank you. We have Janet Lynn. We had Celeste really bringing a ton of great comments as well. Keith, Satyam, Monica. We had Georgetta. We also had Corey earlier on, Lauren, Candalee, awesome, Carrie. So many people joining in, spending some time with us. We really appreciate it. As I always say, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. So thank you so much. And with that, have a great week. Enjoy the week. Enjoy the weekend. Get outside. Get some of that vitamin D. Right, it's good for the mind, good for the body, good for the soul. And we will see you next week, next Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern on Talent Experience Live. Take care.